Gender equality is a right, and fulfilling this right is the best chance we have in meeting some of the most pressing challenges of our time. From economic crisis and lack of health care, to climate change, violence against women, and escalating conflicts. Achieving gender equality and women's empowerment is part of the Agenda 2030 and is at the heart of the Sustainable Development Goal, SDG number 5. That highlights the need of inclusion of women in leadership and decision-making positions. 58 years after Zambia's independence, there are still wide gender gaps in terms of women's representation in political decision-making. Currently, there are only 23 elected and nominated women out of 164 members of parliament, which is 14%, 142 women out of 1,858 councillors, which is 7.6%, 15 out of 116 mayors and council chairpersons, which is 12.9%, 5 including the vice president, out of the 28 cabinet ministers, which is 17.8%. At provincial level, the country only has one female provincial minister out of 10, translating to 10%. The low representation of women in decision-making positions exists despite women accounting for 51% of the country's population and 53.4% of voters. With this scenario, women in Zambia continue to lag behind in terms of full participation in the nation's development and decision-making processes. It is against this background that the Zambia National Women's Lobby, working with other institutions that included civil society organizations, political parties, government institutions with the support from the United Nations Development Programs, UNDP Zambia Country Office, organized a 2-day conference under the theme, Addressing the Declining Representation of Women in Political and Elected Leadership in Zambia. These were the major highlights from the conference.
Traditionally, when we look at women in governance, we've got 288 chiefs, only 28 are females. 4 paramount chiefs, no woman among the paramount chiefs. 45 senior chiefs, only 3 are female. And one of them, you don't call her Bamayo, you call her Batata or Daddy, our father. She has to take on a female identity because governance is not supposed to be in quote unquote for women. Otherwise, why would we call her Batata?
We realize that the attainment of gender equality and equity is key to development. We therefore support efforts such as this conference on policies and strategies for increased participation and representation of women in elections and politics in Zambia. My government stands by and ready to facilitate the necessary legal and political processes for women to increase in political participation. We want increased and effective participation of women in leadership processes at all levels. I therefore call on stakeholders gathered here today to reflect on possible policy responses that will challenge the women's underrepresentation so that we can boost the numbers of women in leadership positions.
Rwanda, they've managed to excel where they are right now to have a high number of representation in parliament because the traditional leaders before the colonial masters came in, the queen was able to lead besides her son, who was the prince by that time. So the leadership of women, it was an equal opportunity because the queen was there also to be able to put in some input as a woman.
These were some of the recommendations from South Africa.
Full and equal participation of both women and men in political decision-making provides a balance that more accurately reflects the composition of society and may as such enhance the legitimacy of political processes by making them more democratic and responsive to the concerns and perspectives of all segments of society.
Representatives from different political parties made remarks regarding the declining representation of women in political and elected leadership in Zambia.
With the rising of the culture of political violence against us women, this becomes a natural etiquette and order of women. We fear violence. We fear to see bloodshed. We fear to see people being beaten. When the Honorable was giving a testimony of what happened during the elections when they were attacked, I personally have been through attacks.
The res rep said nothing about us without us. And if we are not standing as a united front, there's really nothing that we are going to achieve. So for me, it would be that we hold hands, that we forget which political parties we belong to, but that we remember first and foremost that we are women and that we have the same interest at heart. So the mixed membership electoral system for me is something that I think we should be advocating for.
I still feel that the women have to be helped to come on board, to have a buy-in. And so when they are given certain messaging, they begin to understand the importance of in leadership. I think when you looked at Zambians, traditionally women played a very key role, and they would actually guide the village. When the women realize that they can actually reclaim that role that they used to play, and they need to take up their part, that will be important. And just to close, there are many young people, many young ladies who are striving to enter the political arena. If somebody could build incubators for such people and help them and guide them in this minefield called politics, I think that would also be very, very useful.
Our appeal is all political parties should hold hands with the government in power, so that at the end of the day, we are able to address the problems that we have identified. Because without the government coming in, it will be very difficult for us to achieve. So for me and for the party, we are simply appealing to all the political parties. As far as the women issues are concerned, let's remove our party uniforms and work with the government in power to address the reforms that are coming.
As a party, we are to spearhead the women's social and political interest, as well as to advocate for the interest of every woman. And also, in order for us to achieve or to help every woman, it's very, very important as political parties to engage also every woman at every level. We start from the branch level to the ward level, constituents, up to the national level. It's very, very important. We shouldn't leave out any woman.
These were some of the recommendations from Rwanda.
So National Women Councils is built from the cell level to the national level, which is a platform, which is an organization that brings women together to discuss about these issues, but to build capacities of women also as they prepare to join political organizations, but also once they are there to build their skills and to really ensure that women are networking and working together. We also have a forum for women parliamentarians, which uses its strategic position of its members as lawmakers to continuously lobby and advocate for the enactment of gender-sensitive laws, including the protection of children's rights.
Equal participation and representation of women and men in governance. Why should women participate?
The issue really is when we do engage in legal reforms, whether it's even actualizing the Gender and Equality Commission, we need to be very careful about how we craft the provisions in there so that they can actually be implemented, you know. So it's not just about having the legal reforms, having, all these things, but then how do we actually actualize these things to ensure that they turn out to actually provide what we actually want.
These were some of the recommendations from Tanzania.
This kind of meeting and workshop that you're having is very good, because one of the key decisions that should come out of this meeting should be how are we reviewing our electoral system to move away from past the post electoral system, which is dimly, and research has shown that it works against the women. So how are we moving from first past the post to proportional representation, which is accompanied by zebra system and has been tested and proven to be working for women? So I think that should be one of the very good takeaway from this meeting.
I always have this issue that women are both supporting each other and maybe we are not. Because for Kembe constituency, the women came out in numbers and said, enough of the men, enough of this, we want a woman. And that is how I was brought to this arena in 2016. So I want to believe that, yes, that women are supporting each other. And if we are not doing enough, I want to encourage all of us to be the one to break that cycle of not supporting each other.
I think we need to apply the provision of the 50-50 during adoption process for us to achieve what we want as women in politics. The second point, we are trying to encourage our women to take up positions in the structures. It starts from there. And I just want to give an example. As women who are vying for these positions in leadership in politics, you have to start from the grassroots. Many times we have been complaining that we are not being adopted, we are not being recognized, because we don't even know the structures in the various areas that we are coming from.
It's very important that we encourage women to come on board, because if we don't encourage them, then we don't have a pool to choose from. So for me, I believe we need to encourage them, but at the same time, we need to provide that conducive environment for them to come and participate in politics freely.
Women, you need to break the barriers of the political lines. Men do it. Mutoni fambondwamba. Mumvera. Vamuna vamakumana. Winangu ni wa UPND, winangu ni wa PF. But muchungulo wachitashia machani. My dears. Imwe mulinkezi kunyumba. Veve bali kuma klabu, bali kuma golf. Na papa tazmai, ambani kuchoka mu manyumba yanu. Don't just go to the organized meeting ya many party yanu ya chita. Go and meet with people of different political parties. Mukumanile kuma golf. Mukumanile kangati ni kumateweto. Do even the male gatherings. Because believe you me, men support each other in those gatherings.
Of course, there's also need to continue encouraging women to participate in elections and to participate in decision-making positions. That will not only contribute to sustainable development, but also to the next generation, because women are also concerned about the next generation.
Mrs. D. Kabika, Permanent Secretary, Gender Division, made important remarks during the conference.
I wouldn't like to see all these great ideas just be watered down. While we still have this momentum, the burning momentum, let's put this to paper. What I'd love to see is a concept note coming out of all these ideas. Because once we develop a concept note from all the ideas that have come out, and I'm sure we've copied a few ideas from other countries, then we can put up our own concept note. And then from my end, from my office, I'm actually committing right now to say that when I go back to the office tomorrow, I'm going to create a technical team from Gender Division that is going to stand ready, waiting for the technical team from your end to come and meet this technical team, and we kick forward with a new concept note so that we do not end here.
UNDP resident representative, Mr. Lionel Lorraine, also made remarks on the importance of women participation in politics.
This conference could not have come at a better time following the recent commemoration of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence under the theme Unite, Activism to End Violence Against Women and Girls. Violence against women and girls remains, sadly, one of the challenges of our time that we must urgently address, not just in Zambia, but around the world. This is because violence in all its forms, including physical, psychological, and even online, impact negatively on the participation of women in politics. Far too many women are discouraged or even stopped from fully exercising their civil and political rights due to gender-based violence.
Indeed, women participation is key to socio-economic transformation in Zambia. This conference marks one in many efforts to address the declining representation of women in political and elected leadership in Zambia.
This message is brought to you by the Zambia National Women's Lobby, United Nations Development Programme, Zambia Country Office with the support of cooperating partners.